Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Paul Ricard for the second event of the 2018 Euro Formula Open Championship. This is going to be the weekend for the third and fourth race of the season as part of a 16-race calendar. So, as ever, it's a double-header race weekend, and as ever, the grid for each race is set by a 30-minute qualifying session on the morning of the race. So this, for the drivers, is where the weekend starts to get serious. They've had private testing on Thursday, free practice yesterday, and now it's taking to the circuit for this all-important 30-minute qualifying session. The challenge facing the drivers this weekend is the former and to-be home of the French Grand Prix, the Paul Ricard high-tech test track facility, although now increasingly re-established as one of the preeminent venues of international motorsport. Drivers midway through the lap, just heading out of the chicane along the Mistral Straight, and it's the Carlin pair of Cameron Das and Matheus Yorio, who are, in front of your picture there is Yorio, who finished runner-up in the first race of the season. His teammate Cameron Das following him through to third place. But a couple of weeks ago in Estoril, it was Felipe Drugovich and Marcus Siebert who shared the wins to start the season off. Drugovich fairly dominant in the season opener, with then an absolutely thrilling battle between Siebert and Drugovich in the second race, and it was Marcus Siebert, the Argentine Campos racing driver, who just about claimed it after some pretty robust defence through the final couple of laps. So the drivers, of course, all equipped with the Dallara F312 chassis. They all run on the control compound Michelin tyre. With 30 minutes to play with, what we can expect to see in terms of the way this qualifying session is going to unfold is that they'll take the opening portion of the session just to dial themselves and the cars in for the day, as unfortunately in trouble is Alex Karkozik, and that is a disappointment for the Polish driver, who was very quick in free practice yesterday. And Karkozik, who has switched to the Campos team this weekend from the RP Motorsport squad, with whom he started the season, and he's on that yellow flag at turn 6. It's right at really the furthest extremity of the circuit from the pits area. So we currently follow Felipe Drugovich, the championship leader, following the opening couple of races of the season, looking to follow in the wheel tracks of Harrison Scott in the RP Motorsport car, en route to, he will hope, championship. But there is the car of Karkozik being pushed aside by the marshals, so unless that car can be recovered to the pits very quickly, looks as if Karkozik is, unfortunately for him, going to be starting from the 8th row of the grid. Drugovich accelerating down the back straight into the chicane, which turns 8 and 9, before rejoining the straight all the way down towards the Courbe du Cygne, and then the technical final third sector of the lap. Rained very, very heavily yesterday afternoon and again overnight, and you can just see a couple of damp patches on the circuit. The session has been declared wet as they come out. We're not expecting any rain during this qualifying session, though the weather forecast for the race later on is somewhat different. But what we are possibly going to be finding is that the rubber that got laid down over 2 days of running on Thursday and Friday washed away overnight. So there is the number 18 car. That's Marcus Siebert, the driver who comes into the weekend second in the championship, and he is being pursued by the Italian Aldo Fastente, one of many drivers representing the RP Motorsport team. Cameron Das flashes through, but the quickest driver currently in the session is the Brazilian Guilherme Samaya, who raced with Carlin last year before making the switch across to RP Motorsport. Cameron Das, though, has got something more of a history with the Carlin team, having raced with them in British championships. And the 17-year-old American did the part season last year with Campos, switching to Carlin over the winter, and he is looking for a strong campaign as he accelerates out of turn 7 onto that first half of the back straight, with just behind him Matheus Yorio, and behind him Michael Benyar, the Moroccan reigning Formula Renault NEC champion. And Benyar had a tough time in Estoril, 10th and 13th place to show from the weekend, but he's currently second in the session thus far. albeit in the very early stages. Now, it's not too breezy here in Paul Ricard today, so we're not going to get quite the slipstream effect, certainly in this qualifying session, that we sometimes do along the Mistral straight and also the start and finish stretch. But it's really very muggy, humid day here, sultry conditions. As they swing out of Goodson down into turn 11, the road falling away from them for this double apex right-hander before climbing uphill into this tricky section at the end of the lap. Now, you can see to the side of the track the blue and red bands. That is the high-tech runoff area that we have here at Paul Ricard. The blue bandings being medium intensity, high grip asphalt, slow the cars down, punish the drivers running wide. The red strips are high abrasion asphalt, and that for the drivers would be equivalent to going into the gravel trap or thereabouts, because it's likely that a trip over those red strips will flat spot the tyres and possibly necessitate a trip into the pits. So Michael Benyar improves his time to 1 minute 59.692. Cameron Das currently in second, but Felipe Drugovic, not unsurprisingly, setting a benchmark, a 1 minute 58.8 for the Brazilian, who has only competed in 4 races in his Euro Formula Open career. He's won 2 of them, one of them in Barcelona at the end of last season, the other in Estoril to open the season. Certainly had the pace to challenge for victory in race 2 in Estoril, but deciding eventually, in the face of strident defence from Marcus Siebert, at discretion of the better part of valour, to follow through to claim second position. Nonetheless, handy bag full of points for the Brazilian. So Drugovic accelerating on the back straight, as is Michael Benyar, who picks his way through the chicane. And the Paul Ricard circuit, one that Benyar will know from his time in the French Formula 4 Championship. She finished third in 2016. A lovely shot there as Benyar just looks through the quarter scene, looks to pick his exit point, thinking a couple of corners ahead. This lap, though, isn't going to be quite as quick as the one that preceded it. Felipe Drugovic, however, who is just behind him on the road, is on a good lap. He has posted personal best first and second sectors for the lap. Benyar uses all the aerodynamic grip available to him just to carry the momentum through these mid-speed, quite technical corners towards the end of the lap. Ducks his way around Cameron Das, who slows in the Carlin car, and Benyar decides that's that. He peels into the pits, and he's going to be probably in the pit lane for about 8 or 9 minutes, based on what we've seen in the past year or so in the Euro Formula Open. Guilherme Samaya flashes through, doesn't improve. There's Samaya, the blue and green-yellow helmet, very much in the colours of the Brazilian flag. Felipe Drugovic, however, did improve, a 1 minute 58.489 for Drugovic. So his advantage at the top of the times now to 1.1 seconds. Second place then Matheus Iorio. Third is Michael Benyar, who's in the pits. Fourth, Guilherme Samaya. Fifth, Callum Williams now for the Fortec team. Sixth is, in fact, going fourth now, is the Mexican Raul Guzman, who steps into the second Fortec seat this weekend. The Mexican who's been racing with the Fortec squad in the Formula Renault 2 Litre Euro Cup and has decided to come for an outing in the Euro Formula Open, and immediately right up there in terms of the pace. Also an improved time, jumping up to third for Bent Viscal in the Teo Martin Motorsport car. As the RP Motorsport team get to work on the car of Michael Benyar, because the brand new set of Michelin tyres being bolted on, and that's the strategy deployed by most of the drivers during the qualifying sessions for the Euro Formula Open. They'll do this first portion of the session on scrub tyres, just making sure everything's settled in. Then they'll come out of the pits, take a lap or so to warm up the brand new set of Michelin tyres, and then they'll get 2 or 3 laps at the most where the heat cycles is optimum to try and post the best time possible, get themselves well up the grid. At the moment, all relaxed on the Carlin pit wall. They follow the progress Matheus Iorio. Iorio currently third in the session. This might be a slight improvement, actually, for the Brazilian as he accelerates out of the final turn. He he's put together his best middle sector of the session thus far. And indeed, it is a slight improvement. Well, no, the time doesn't improve, but he gets shuffled back up to second in the session nonetheless, because Aldo Festante has lost his best time as a result of a track limits violation. So accelerating through the first section of the lap for Matheus Iorio. At last, that was only 200th of a second adrift to his very best, so if nothing else, the Brazilian proving to be very consistent in the opening portion of this session. Meanwhile, Felipe Drugovich has peeled into the pit lane. Raul Guzman goes second now for Fortec with a 1 minute 59.547, but nobody has been able to get within a second of Felipe Drugovich through the first 5 laps or so of this qualifying period. Here is Callan Williams then, the Australian who raced here at Paul Ricard in the Winter Series with Fortec, had a promising weekend in Estoril, finished outside the points in both races, but was in the thick of the action in both of them as well. He'll be taking that learning on to this Paul Ricard circuit. There in the background is his teammate Raul Guzman. Fortec squad, one with a great deal of pedigree in Formula 3 competition. They know all the tricks about getting the cars set up to be on peak performance. And Guzman, a driver who has shown great flashes of speed in his career to date, finished third in the Italian Formula 4 Championship a couple of years ago, and had a solid learning year in Formula Renault last season. Step up to the slightly more powerful cars at the moment seems to be something he's absolutely relishing as he runs downhill out of the Courbe du Cygne, down through the gears at turn 11 before the road starts to climb uphill. The track itself is situated on the plateau high up in the hills of Provence. Absolutely magnificent setting for a circuit. And more often than not, the weather's pretty good, but this weekend the forecast is variable at best. Although the forecast is torrential rain for today, which we had for much of the week, fortunately seems to have gone away. We've got the drivers now starting to peel into the pit lane to put on the new set of rubber as Raul Guzman completes the lap. He doesn't improve, posts a 1 minute 59.7, his best being 1 minute 59.5, so it's just a couple of tenths adrift where he'd be hoping to be. Unfortunately for Alex Karkozic, who pulled off the road on his outlap, he as yet has not reappeared, and I rather fear that his car is stranded over on the far side of the circuit. However, this is a track, again, where you can overtake, much as with Estoril at the start of the season. You really have to work for it, but there are a couple of good overtaking opportunities, not least through this final sector of the lap. If the car in front of you maybe just overexerted its tyres a little bit, then you can challenge there. Likewise down the back straight now with Raul Guzman into the chicane. If you get a good tow, you can look to challenge to the inside, and again coming out, if you can force your rival offline. Here then is Bent Viscal, who was the double rookie trophy winner in Estoril, and the 18-year-old Dutch driver had a very successful 2017 racing in Formula 4 and has been immediately on the pace. The opening event of the season, third place in the second of the races in Estoril, fifth in race 1. At the moment in this session, he's only the third of the rookie trophy runners, behind Michael Benyaya and Raul Guzman. But behind Felipe Drugovich, it's very, very close indeed, because Drugovich has now got a 9/10 of a second advantage over Benyaya, who's just jumped into second place. But then from Benyaya through to Aldo Festante in 12th, they're covered by just 6/10 of a second. So we should be in for a very, very entertaining shootout towards the end of this qualifying period. Now Benyaya is possibly running slightly off strategy at the moment, because we saw him bolting on some brand new tyres. He's out circulating and potentially going to be posting the times that will be his best for the session. Benyaya is just on his personal best through sector 1 as Viscal peels into the pits. So it's just the number 3 car of Michael Benyaya who's currently circulating. He's out on the far side of the track at the moment, waiting for him to come to the end of sector 2. He's really pushing as everyone else waits in the pits. And we'll see if we can find Ben Yaya as the Teo Martin Motorsport team get to work with Ben Viscal.
He's not there.
So various elements of debriefing going on as Mateus Iorio emerges from the pits. And because it's a near enough 2-minute lap here, they want to give themselves plenty of time to make sure that they can post the time with the time remaining. But Iorio is going to have the opportunity for 7 or so laps. Doubt he's going to use all of that. Well, there you see the bottom of the screen, Ben Yaya's time that Ben Yaya is running. He is about to come through and complete the lap. Indeed, he accelerates through now and posts a 1 minute 59.3. So Ben Yaya gets to within 0.8 of a second of Felipe Drugovich. And here is the Moroccan. So this is going to be his 3rd flying lap on the new rubber. So he runs out over the curves, has a little bit of a bumpy ride. First sector lap, it's about 30 seconds or so. So we'll find out as he comes through turn 6 whether or not this is another lap that's looking likely to improve. His last first sector was a 32.6. He's looking to try and beat if he can, and that isn't going to be the improvement. A 32.8 through sector 1. He looks to carry as much momentum as he can as he slingshots out onto the back stretch, accelerating along the back of the paddock area before arriving at the chicane which bisects the Mistral Straight. And Yaya picks his way through. Picks up the throttle on the exit, continues on his way. What's going to be slightly worrying for the others is that Felipe Drugovich, on as far as we know, as far as we know is old rubber, has been able to go 0.8 of a second quicker than Ben Yaya on brand new tyres. And Ben Yaya, again, still a little bit off the challenge for pole position, but an improved time through the middle sector, 36.8 for Ben Yaya. Time's looking to be a 1 minute 59.3. The rear wing juddering with the aerodynamic forces being put through it, because this final sector of the lap, there's quite a few turns where they're right on that balance as to whether or not they're getting the most from the mechanical or aerodynamic grip. Particularly that final turn, got to be nice and precise on the exit, as Ben Yaya is there, accelerating then along, about to break the timing beam. And it's a 1 minute 59.343, so he's 200th of a second adrift of his best. No improvement, remains 0.8 of a second back from Felipe Drugovich. We've still got the majority of the field in the pit lane, just 2 other cars circulating. That's Mateus Iorio, who is about to wind up for a flying lap for too long, and also Aldo Festante. Everybody else remaining in the pit lane. There's quite a few drivers that we've not seen much of in the session. Particularly, we've not spoken at all about the trio of Drivex drive competitors, Lucas Dunner, Janez Fitcher and Christian Hahn. And this is a track where the Drivex team has traditionally gone very well. Ferdinand Habsburg taking a win here a couple of seasons ago, and Nikita Troitsky coming very close to one last year. So those are going to be cars to watch for late on in the session. Meanwhile, Michael Ben Yaya, again, unable to make any improvement through the first sector on the lap, and just wonder whether or not he's now got through that pure pace cycle in the Michelin tyres. This is 4th flying lap, I make it, on fresh rubber, and he's no quicker now through the second sector. Christian Hahn, meanwhile, has emerged out onto the circuit, as has Guilherme Samaya. And possibly just giving themselves a couple more laps to warm the tyres up. Now, Mateus Iorio, who is currently in the middle of the first sector as Ben Yaya comes through to the end of the lap, might be the man to watch now, because Iorio's just completed 2 out laps. And I'd imagine that he's probably got his tyres up to perfect temperature. We are just over 2/3 the way through the session. This to set the grid for the 3rd race for the Euro Formula Open season. Felipe Drugovich remains quickest from Michael Benyar, then Raul Guzman, Mateus Iorio in 4th, Ben Fiscal 5th, Lucas Dunner 6th from Callum Williams, Guilherme Smar in 8th from Yanis Fitcher, Cameron Das completes the top 10, not for any longer. Aldo Festante goes 10th, and it's Cameron Das, Marcus Siebert, Christian Hahn, Yves Baltas and Alex Karkozic, who stopped on his outlap and therefore won't be posting a time at all, it would appear, in this session. 8 3/4 minutes to run. The entire field now has emerged onto the circuit as Yanis Fitcher accelerates down the back straight. And Fitcher, who got an 8th place and a 4th place finish in Estoril, but had a very strong campaign en route to 5th in the championship last season, featured on the podium on several occasions. He's backed out of this lap to allow Michael Benyar to power past. Now, Mateus Iorio has just done a 37.0 through the middle sector. That's his best middle sector of the session. Yanis Fitcher is in the throes of an outlap. Therefore, he's just going to look after those tyres, bring them through the heat cycle gently. Because the risk is if you push too hard too quickly, you lose that peak performance from the Michelin tyre. 7.5 minutes to go. This is now where it's going to start to get serious. They've all got time for probably 4 more laps. Yanis Fitcher accelerates through the final corner. See the gentle undulations at the start and finish straight ahead of him. And that concludes the outlap for Fitcher. Now, thus far, with the exception of Michael Benyar, nobody has set an improved time in this second half of the session. But Mateus Iorio could be on a good one. He's just done his best through the first sector. Chance to listen to the engine note of Yanis Fitcher as Fitcher arrives on the brakes into turns 4, 5 and 6. Here is Iorio then, and he backed out of the lap last time round, I suspected because of traffic, and it appears that he's caught somebody as well on this lap. We'll find out as he accelerates into the second half of the Mistral straight. Yes, he has, and that is Felipe Drugovich, who's just ahead of him. So the two Brazilians flying in formation, and Iorio, he could do worse than follow behind Drugovich. And Iorio and Ben Fiscal both on good laps, as the sector splits tell you. The question being whether or not the Carlin driver Iorio is going to get caught in the turbulent air behind Felipe Drugovich through this final sector on the lap. Just a couple of corners to run. The heat haze over the back of the engine, the sun just beginning to peek through. Iorio arrives into the final turn. There's a very tight right-hand flick. Easy to be over exuberant on the throttle on the exit. Iorio squares it off nicely as Guilherme Smar goes 7th, an improved time for him. Aldo Festante goes 3rd, and Mateus Iorio goes 2nd, a 1 minute 59.154. Here comes Ben Fiscal then, and Fiscal, based on the first 2 sectors, is going to be a little bit slower than Mateus Iorio. How much we'll find out momentarily. Felipe Drugovich, meanwhile, has just set the fastest final sector of anybody, as Fiscal navigates the final turn, accelerates on his way now, and this should be good enough to jump Fiscal to 3rd. Indeed, it is a 1 minute 59.194, and Fiscal the fastest final sector of anybody in the session thus far, as Felipe Drugovich has just posted the best first sector of anybody in the session. Benyar, meanwhile, with 5 minutes to run, he has completed his session and has peeled into the pit lane. Guilherme Smar, another driver, on the hunt for an improved time. Others still possibly a lap or so away on the heat cycle. Felipe Drugovich, here he is, having an absolutely phenomenal lap once more into the Courbe du Cygne. And he was 0.3 of a second quicker than Mateus Iorio through the second sector, which is predominantly the Mistral Straight, the entry to it and the exit from the chicane. And Drugovic, this is a lap that is going to potentially put him well over a second clear of the rest of the field, because he's already almost half a second up on Mateus Iorio just through the first two sectors. Iorio in pursuit as Drugovic navigates the final turn, accelerates on towards the start and finish line, which comes midway down the straight. And so 1 minute 57.9 for Felipe Drugovic, 9/10 up then on Mateus Iorio. Guilherme Samoa jumps into third place, Ben Fiscal in fourth, Michael Benyaya remains in fifth, Aldo Fastante sixth, Callum Williams seventh, Raul Guzman eighth, Lucas Dunner ninth, Cameron Das in 10th, ahead of Yanis Fitja, Marcus Siebert, Christian Hahn, Yves Baltas and Alex Kargozic. 3 minutes and 20 seconds to run. So it means that more or less when Felipe Drugovic crosses the line next time around, that will be to start his final lap of the session. Here is Guilherme Samoa, and this has been a very impressive session thus far from the Brazilian. He finished 7th and 8th in the brace of races in Portugal. But throughout the course of the session has been consistently up inside the top 5. Let's see whether or not he can retain that through to the end of the session. Again, he posts a personal best through the middle sector. Meanwhile, Ben Fiscal has just slipped up into second position, 13 thousandths of a second clear of Mateus Iorio. Other improvements, possibly now further down the field. Lucas Dunner, Cameron Das and Yanis Fitja have all got their tyres up to temperature. Marcus Siebert in 12th has been something of an anonymous presence in this session. Perhaps surprisingly, given the form he was showing in Estoril, as Guilherme Samoa peels through the final turn. And Samoa, if he can find 3/10 of a second, that's going to be good enough for the front row of the grid. Accelerates through across the line now, and Samoa, it's a 1 minute 58.9, so he gets to within 1/10 of a second. No more than that, so he remains in fourth, and it's very, very tight for second, third and fourth. Samoa's going to have one more crack at the whip. Michael Benyaya, the time he posted mid-session, is still currently good enough for 5th place, so it's a solid qualifying once more for the RP Motorsport team with a huge slide from Guilherme Samoa. Now, how much has that hurt him? Because it was a personal best through the first sector, very impressive first sector, in fact, a 32.5. Felipe Drugovic, though, in the 1 minute 57 second bracket. Everybody else in the high 1 minute 58s and beyond. Limited improvements, actually, elsewhere through the field. Here's another look at that slide then from Samoa. Or maybe just a little bit of moisture on the tyres as he ran over the curb. Heads to the pit wall to watch the clock tick down for the remainder of the session. Pretty much a case of job done. Lucas Dunner goes 6th for the Drivex team, a 1 minute 59.372. He's on the prowl for improvement. So are Marcus Siebert and Yanis Fitja. Ben Fiscal just about maintaining that second position. He is unlikely to improve on this, the final lap of the session. Michael Benyaya, meanwhile, has re-emerged from the pit lane and has posted a slight improvement for 5th place. Here is Yanis Fitja, and Fitja with Fiscal in pursuit. Swooping through Courbe de Seine. Checker flag goes out then to end the session. There are potentially going to be some improvements on this last lap of the session, but nobody looking likely to overhaul Felipe Drugovic. Certainly no overhaul. Fiscal. Marcus Siebert takes the flag with just 12th place for the Estoril race winner, a 1 minute 59.8, his best. Fiscal unlikely to improve. going to accelerate over the line and take the checkered flag anyway, rather than peel into the pit lane. We've still got a couple of them who've gone out for one more roll of the dice. Yanis Fitcher has taken the flag. He's going to line up in 11th position. Then the 1 minute 59.6 for him. Aldo Festante doesn't improve on his final lap, so it's looking like 7th position for the Italian, because the drivers that are improving out on the circuit are all generally ahead of Festante in the times, with the exception of Raul Guzman, who crosses the line now. Guzman in 9th position, just adrift of teammate Callum Williams, remains there. The two Fortec drivers separated by just 0.09 of a second through this qualifying period. So it's just Guilherme Samara and Michael Ben-Yaya whom we await to take the checkered flag. And of the pair of them, Michael Ben-Yaya is possibly going to be on the cusp of an improvement. Here he comes then, and Ben-Yaya improves his time, not his position, a 1 minute 59.037. So he remains a 10th adrift of teammate Guilherme Samaya, will be the last driver to take the checkered flag. So it's going to be another pole position for Felipe Drugovich, and a very dominant one at that. 9/10 of a second clear of Bentley Scarl in second place. Viscal, the top rookie. Mateus Iorio and Guilherme Samaya looking out the second row of the grid, clear of an all-rookie row 3, Michael Ben-Yaya and Lucas Dunner. So there is the check of the times. Very, very impressive from Felipe Drugovich. 1 minute 57.9. Viscal, very strong second for the Teo Martin Motorsport team. Mateus Iorio and Guilherme Samaya, an all-Brazilian second row, clear of Michael Ben-Yaya and Lucas Dunner. Aldo Festante and Callum Williams both well up on row 4, clear of Raul Guzman and Cameron Das, who complete the top 10. Lots of very quick drivers though in the second half of the field. We can expect to see Yanis Fitcher and Marcus Siebert fighting their way through the field, and disappointment for Alex Karkozik after he hit trouble on his outlap. He did re-emerge later in the session, but was unable to set an indicative time. So we will be back racing this afternoon at 3:30 Central European time. We'll see you then.
Mm-hmm.